Welcome back to the FloTrack Podcast. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. You can email the pod, flotrackpodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on our YouTube page. We have a specific YouTube page now just for the podcast. And I want to read some of these, Gordon, because last time we challenged the listeners. We said you should preface any comment on YouTube with "Gordon won't read this," just to see if we'd read it. And we got one here, a great one here. Right off the bat, Gordon won't read this. How does it feel that my Blazers just floored the Sixers without CJ McCollum, Nurk, or Lillard? We're honestly mediocre at best. This is kind of funny. I don't even watch basketball that often. I like this.
Three things.
I like them.
Three things. Number one, first of all, you're not supposed to read YouTube comments because there's nothing but bad things that come out of YouTube comments. But I guess
this
because
is the
it's our
exception.
podcast, we're the exception that we have to actually read the YouTube comments. Number two, Joel Embiid was the best player in the league that day. He was phenomenal. He had 31 points in the first half alone.
Great.
And just, chilled. And number three, hey, losses don't count unless you have your full squad available. So Sixers were playing without Ben Simmons, so it doesn't count. We're still 15-1 when our two best players play. And
that's
we play
all
Brooklyn
nonsense.
on Saturday. If we beat Brooklyn
that's all nonsense.
tomorrow, then this loss means nothing. It was off a back-to-back. Who cares?
I will say this. There is a weird thing that goes on in the NBA where teams who don't have their best player, or this year teams that are down to 8 or 9 people, or 9 people, I guess, overperform. It seems like an extraordinarily high rate, because my Spurs have been on the bad end of that a couple times, where the team's best player is out, and then somehow their third string point guard, who's now their second string point guard, goes off for like 6 threes, or a team that has only 9 players available somehow manages to win. Another comment here that has nothing to do with basketball from Christian. Do you guys think Cooper Tier can get the indoor XC and outdoor triple? Ooh, we're talking triples here, Gordon.
I mean, he's definitely going to win an indoor title. The question is, can he come back and win an XC title? Maybe. I mean, it's definitely less. I think Luis Grijalva is the favorite, but the way Cooper Tier is running, you can't just say Cooper Tier doesn't have a chance, because that's just stupid. Cooper Tier is definitely talented. Cooper will be in the front pack. He will be in it. The question is, will his indoor shenanigans of running DMRs, miles, and 3Ks affect his final 2K in a 10K race against a fresh Grijalva? I don't know. It's possible. And if he were to win cross, then he would become the outdoor favorite, because he would have pulled off an incredible feat. So the question is, can he win cross? And if he does, then he'll be favorite outdoors. But I think he'll come up short on cross. And then because of that, whoever wins cross is going to have a lot of confidence. And Edwin Kurgat also is out there for Iowa State waiting for outdoors. So, yes, it could happen, but it won't happen. That's my take.
You got another question here. Want to know about Drew Bosley of NAU. Says, I know he's injured right now, but is it possible to recover and get in good shape in 6 weeks? That's from Matthew.
Yeah, I think Drew's going to be in the top 7. The vibe I got from the coach wasn't that, hey, I think Drew's going to be ready. That's the vibe I got from the coach. Now, I could be wrong, but I got the vibe that him and Luis were both withheld, not for any drastic reason. I do think Drew, I think Drew would still be in their top 5 based off of, he was a top returner from last year, and he ran well, so.
Yeah. Let's stick with cross country for now. We just had results come in from the FSU Winter XC Classic down in Tallahassee. On the women's side of things, you had Colorado win the meet 72-77 over Stanford. Duke was in 3rd, Oklahoma State 4th, Iowa State 5th. Ella Donahue, Kay Logue, and Sophia Dudek went in the top 3 places there. The big story here, we'll start with the women and then we'll get to the Ben here in a second, is the drop-off from Stanford's 3-4, because Stanford goes 1-3-9, and then they don't get another runner in until 31 points, 32nd place overall, which was Jessica Lawson. Then 2 spots behind that was Grace Connolly. And then Aubrey Roberts was a bit farther back. This to me seems just like an issue of shaking off some rust. I wouldn't be too worried if I was Stanford, because you showed that you have 3 really high quality runners, and I would guess Lawson is going to come back around. Roberts. I mean, they have a lot of options there to figure out 4 and 5, and the fact that Donahue and Dudek are so good has to be comforting. What was your read on these results? Did this change your perception of anything?
I mean, I don't come out of it as confident as like, hey, it's no big deal as you. I mean, Stanford, Jess Lawson was 11th at Nationals last year. She's like the third returner.
And I'm assuming she'll get back to that.
Well, will she? She got 32nd place here. She was over a minute behind, almost a minute behind her teammate Donahue. You don't finish a minute behind someone on accident and just be like, oh yeah, it's an off day, so I'm going to finish a minute behind someone who I normally run up with. Like, that doesn't really happen. I think while she can improve, I don't know if she's going to be the 1-2 punch that Stanford hopes that she was part of in Donahue and Lawson. I mean, we don't know what's going on. It could be, hey, run this conservatively. Hey, you're dealing with an injury. Hey, you had to take a week off.
Yeah, they haven't run that much. We don't even know how long they've been practicing at Stanford, right? We don't even know that. So listen, she doesn't.
That didn't affect Donahue, who won the race.
I don't. Well, everybody's. If they're not, we have no idea what their lead up to this race was. Some schools have had an easier time of it than others. I'm just saying, you don't even need her to be with Donahue for Stanford to win this thing, because you could have someone like Dudek fill that role, and then as long as Lawson slots in as a serviceable 4th or 5th woman, then you're going to be in business. Credit though to Colorado for getting the win. Their first runner, Rachel MacArthur, was 5th. Then they had Michaela DeGennaro in 12th. Then Covert, Constian, they're 3 and 4, and then Abby Nichols, the Ohio State transfer, finished in 24th. You had your eye on Oklahoma State, though, I think, correct? You did some Oklahoma State math?
Yeah, Oklahoma State math. They finished 4th in this race. But if you look at, they had a really strong top 3, similar to Stanford's top 3. But they had a really far back 4 and 5. Their 4 and 5 scored 75 and 78 points. But you look at their top 3, Taylor Rowe, Gabby Henterman, and Molly Bourne. There's an athlete missing from that top 3, and that is Taylor Summers, who finished 18th in cross last year. She was top 20 in cross last year. If she can get back, maybe she is precautionally held out because of injury, you throw in her, and she is in the form of her teammates, Bourne and Henderman. That means Oklahoma State now has a really strong top 4. Again, they'll need a better 5th, but if home course, hey, you have this strong top 4, that's something to get excited about. I think now maybe Oklahoma State isn't going to rush it, because if you look at their top 4 are all underclassmen. So they could say, hey, we don't want to rush Taylor Summers. She's still going to be back next year along with our other top 3. We can be a podium contending team in the fall of 2021. But if she's healthy or gets back to being healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma State surprises some, because Rowe's having an incredible season. She finished second to Whitney Orton back in the fall. Henderman has a great race here, finishes 11th, and then Molly Bourne, a top 20 returner, finishes 15th in this race. Oklahoma State sneakily has a good team if they throw in one more low stick.
So you're saying you're not panicking about teams that didn't have the best 4 and 5 in this meet. That's what you're saying?
No. There's a difference between not running the race and running the race and getting 30th.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't
there's a
know.
difference.
So you could say running the race and getting 30th. At least you know that they're healthy enough to get on the start line. We don't know. We don't know. I don't want to speculate. But I will say we've seen people have bad races in the beginning and then work out. Ordinarily, this would be the what? This would be your random home meet. Your first race of the year is your random home meet against two schools that are nearby, and you tempo run the thing, and nobody knows what it means because all five of you cross the line together. That's what this normally is, but they're not doing that this year. So I think those types of meets oftentimes disguise people who aren't in race shape yet because they're all just jogging together. And then when we really see them try for the first time, it's at Wisconsin. It's at a pre-nationals meet where they're a little bit sharper. And then you see, and then you can worry or get excited about people's performance. But this is basically serving the same purpose that early season dual meet or try meet would against a couple of local schools. So I'm not going to read too much into it, except for the men's race, in which case I'm going to say Wesley Kiptoo is the individual favorite for the men. That's just what I'm going to – no, just kidding. He won by, 15 seconds here over Eduardo Herrera. Stanford won the team race over Iowa. Well, Iowa State and Colorado tied at 98. Iowa State gets the victory there on the tiebreaker, looks like. But Kiptoo bounces back from his 3K loss. Stanford freshman looking pretty good. They go 5-6 individually. What do you think of the men's race?
Yeah, I mean, Eduardo Herrera at the Oklahoma State meet back in the fall finished fourth, ran 23:40, and Luis Grijalva won that race in 23:30. So he beat Herrera by 10 seconds. In this race, Herrera gets beaten by 15 seconds? 14 to 15 seconds. So Kiptoo beats Herrera. It definitely shows that Kiptoo is going to be, I mean, we already knew this, is going to be in that front pack with Mance, Grijalva, maybe even Nico Young, Cooper Tier. I think Kiptoo, though, he has shown some weaknesses. He finished third in a 3K against the two Oregon guys. Now, you could argue, hey, it's a shorter distance. Kiptoo is not a tactical kicker. I mean, he hasn't really been in the NCAA long enough to learn that. Maybe he's just a go from the gun type guy, and he figures it out as he goes. Looking at his splits, he went out through 3K in 8:18. His 5K was 13:59. I mean, sub 14 5K in a cross country race is pretty good. No,
Yeah.
I mean, what did Eduardo Herrera run? So Eduardo Herrera went out in 14:14, and Kiptoo went out in 13:59. So at 5K, he was already up by 15 seconds. This is wild.
Yeah. What do we think of these Stanford freshmen, Sprout and Hicks?
I mean, they look good. Here's one thing I take away from this race. I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, but no team is really coming out of this race as like, hey, watch out for them against NAU or BYU. It's a lot of high scoring. I mean, 67 points, 98. And if you look at the time distance, it's like Herrera runs 23:05. Stanford's top stick is 23:30. So it's like almost 30 seconds back from Herrera. If that's a long time, like if you want to compete at the national level, like podium wise, you need to have people who are in that top group of 20, like a Herrera. And I mean, again, let's look at last Oklahoma State. So Herrera runs 23:40. You had Abdi Hamid, a bunch of Oklahoma State guys, some NAU guys, all within 30 seconds of a Herrera. Here, none of the Stanford guys were that. So I look at it as like, it's great for Cole Sprout, Charles Hicks. They ran well, but sometimes something disguised in a cross-country results is you like, 5th place, 10th place. But you gotta look at the time back, because the time back is, I think, more indicative of the quality of the run as opposed to just your place. And I think the thing I get out of this is that Stanford, Iowa State, and Colorado are top 10 teams, but aren't really showing that they're top 4 quality. That's what I take from it.
And I'll take from it that we're going to wait, just like with the women, because I don't know what those Stanford men are going to look like another race into the season. I think if they do run in Las Vegas in a couple weeks, that'll tell us a lot more, because I believe Colorado might run in that meet as well too. So we could get some good rematches here and just see how much each team has improved. Also, just the composition of the roster, I think, would change, because I'm guessing some people are raring to go, but other people might be a little more cautious. For example, did Kashawn Harrison run this race? I don't see him in here for Colorado. I don't know if he was entered or was planning to run, but that would be a big difference maker for Colorado. Syracuse down there in 8th was a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, Joe Dragon and JP Trojan did not run as well. You'd think they would finish there in the top 10, especially JP Trojan, the William and Mary transfer. Aiden Tooker, man, what's going on with him? He finished 7th for his team in 91st place. Aiden Tooker, he's interesting. If you scroll down, there's some like known names who did not finish in the top tiers. That on paper you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a good athlete. It's a strong number 5 stick or 4 stick, and then they finish in the 90s to 100s. But like you said, you are right in that some of these cross country races can be weird, especially when they're so used to having a typical rotation of, hey, we do the small dual meet, then we go to the invitational, then we do conferences, then we get ready for the big enchilada. But yeah, I don't know. Stanford, they're definitely going to be good, but they just didn't do anything that's like, whoa. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a whoa performance, but we just didn't get that.
The problem is everything is measured compared to BYU and NAU, who not only were a cut above everybody like last week, like they've lived up to every expectation we had of them, right? Like you would have defaulted, even though NAU barely beat Colorado in 2019, but because Colorado graduated so many people, you'd have thought, okay, NAU, BYU, clear 2 favorite teams. And then we fast forward 2 years and they've only gotten stronger, basically. And the gap's only widened between the two, that it's so hard to figure out. It's so hard to figure out who's going to be next, because you're comparing it to NAU and BYU. That's why the women's race is so fascinating, because we don't have any of that, right? Arkansas graduated 4 of the top 5. BYU graduated 2 of their top 3 and 4 of their top 5. Like, there's just not that same consistency from year to year, just because the way the years worked out. And then you add in BYU and NAU also just added in because of circumstance. NAU adds in one of the best distance runners in high school history. BYU adds back in Klinger, who's an important piece for them. So the rich got richer, and the women's side of things, much more ambiguity there. While we're on the topic of college, do you want to discuss your rankings at all? I know you released them on the site yesterday, the official indoor team rankings and individual rankings, actually. Wow, you did a lot of rankings here. I'm looking at this right now. This is an impressive amount of work.
It's great that you look at our site now, man. I appreciate you logging in and giving us a click.
I just refreshed here. I mean, you got Oregon. You blew past the mid-40s with Oregon men. Now I'm feeling like you took my bullishness on Oregon and threw gasoline on it, basically.
So let me finish up cross-country bit, and then we'll transfer to indoor. I am going to be – I have this past week, I've been working on the latest 2021 new and improved 3.0 cross-country rating algorithm. All right? It's had some tweaks over the years, but I feel like I finally got it. This is the one where this is the right order of rankings for individuals and teams. And this race right here, this FSU Winter Classic, will be one of the data points to kind of plug into it. So we will have our new official cross-country rankings coming out on Monday next week. And I already have most of the data points in there because this race needs to be thrown in. And then there's an Oregon meet going on later today that will be thrown in as well. But I'm kind of excited to see how it unfolds, to see, especially on the women's side, because there's a lot of ambiguity. One thing I did notice, the BYU women, low-key, are pretty good. Even though they did lose a bunch of their top-tier runners, when I think all said and done, BYU, I think, is going to be a podium team, which is kind of incredible to show that they're able to stay up the top despite losing an Erica Burke and a Courtney Wayment. So, those rankings come out on Monday. The rankings that are out now, which are the individual indoor track rankings, came out last night. And you're surprised about them? What's wrong with my rankings?
Well, it's funny because I brought up Oregon on Monday just because of their great weekend, and I've said, yeah, they could probably win this indoor meet, just the way everything is breaking down. And then I was using the words, get to that magical 40-point threshold, which again is the bare minimum. And I probably should have been more. If I got out pen and paper and did a form chart, I probably would have had way more than that. But then it went from, hey, they can get to 40s or mid 40s to win, to then you texted me later on that day, you had them in the 60s. And then I see the rankings on the site and they're now at 76, which is 29 points clear of second place. So they went from, hey, they could win this. No one's talking really about Oregon for 1 year. Oregon's gone quiet, but maybe we should talk about them. To now, you have them projected to win the meet by 29 points. That's huge.
Yeah, so I have their freshman Michael Williams getting second in the 60.
Mm-hmm.
In the field events, I have Isaiah Griffith getting 8th in the long jump. So that's 9 points total, 8 plus 1. I have them getting 3rd. They have a freshman, Emmanuel Iamiji, getting 3rd in the triple. So that's another 6. So now they're at 15 points. And then I have Max Vollmer, who's a heptathlete, getting 5th. So that's another 4. So they're at 19 points, right? Then at relays, I have them winning the DMR. So they're at 29 points. So they're at 29 points before we count any distance points. Then I have them getting 5th in the 800, Luis Peralta, the sophomore. I have them getting 2nd in the mile, 4th in the mile, which is Charlie Hunter and Reed Brown. I have them getting 1st in the 3K, 3rd in the 3K. And then I have them getting 1st in the 5K, 5th in the 5K. And then that adds up a total to 76 points.
Yeah, and some of these are conservative too, because you have Mance running the 3K and the 5K, so there's room for improvement there. Now, somebody obviously can jump up and pass Cole Hawker or Tier. That's not that unlikely because of how deep NCAA distance running is. But there's like room for them to grow on this as well too. Hunter, you mentioned, you don't have him winning the mile, you have him getting 2nd. You have Brown getting 4th there. Peralta could probably run better than 5th too. Like, these aren't overly optimistic. This isn't wish casting for Oregon in any way, shape, or form. What about the women? The women, you have Arkansas atop the leaderboard, I believe.
Yeah, Arkansas with
62
62 points. Texas A&M 54, Georgia 40, LSU 37.
Thoughts? Arkansas, how do they do it? I mean, I see you got Lauren Gregory winning the mile.
Yeah, I
Chrissy
mean,
Gear
Arkansas is
getting 4th in the mile. Izzo winning the 3K. Yeah. And the 5K.
I mean, if you look at, there's like, who's going to beat Izzo in the 3K and the 5K? I don't see anyone. There's no one right now who's running out there who's going to challenge that. It's low key just a weird distance meet because of the whole I'm focusing on cross. And when Arkansas is like, we're not focusing on cross. We're focusing on indoor. They're going to get all the points. And I have them going 1-4 in the mile, going 1-5 in the 3K, and going 1 in the 5K, and then winning the DMR. And that's a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm second in the DMR right now, but yes.
Oh, second in DMR. Sorry. I have BYU winning.
The 800, the women's 800 is tough, right? You got a Thing Mo up front, one of the best runners in the nation, let alone college. You have Sage Herda, who is legit. She's really good. She ran really fast when she was redshirting. Lori Barton's good. Katie Ann McDonald's good. Lauren Ellsworth for BYU has run some really fast times. Aaliyah Miller in there. Like, you have a lot of credentialed people, and then you get into the mile and the 3K, and you look deeper down the list, and you're just like, okay, this is an opportunity because of all the stuff that's happened, like you mentioned, because of the people going pro, because of the people running out of eligibility, because of the 2 seasons happening at the same time. There's a lot of people there who are going to be All-American for the very first time in that list. There are a lot of people who you wouldn't even think about finishing in the top 8 would get into the top 8, which is interesting. And it's like Arkansas lost so much on the distance side last year or 2 years ago that you wouldn't think that they'd be able to use the distance to power themselves to an indoor title. And yet here we are. It's kind of weird how that worked out.
What's even crazier is I think Taylor Warner had indoor eligibility, correct?
Yes.
She did.
Yeah, indoor.
Imagine if she was on this team right now. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, they'd be good.
She should have signed just, hey, I'll give me the deal, but I just get to sign it on March 15th. So I can just go out there and win a bunch of NCAA titles. They should have done that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Hey, she's in Puma now, living her best life. So good for her.
Okay. Anything else we should know in these rankings, or anything else you're keeping an eye
on? It's weird. It's the distance fields are really if you look at the team rankings, the reason Oregon is number 1 on the men's side and Arkansas is number 1 on the women's side, all because of their distance. And those distance points wouldn't be as flourishing for those 2 teams if it was a legitimate field. And I think if you're an LSU, a Florida State, Texas, Georgia, you're probably like, shit, this sucks. We're going to lose to a team that doesn't have to race against the best in the nation. They're racing against the second tier athletes in the nation. Like, in order to win the 60, you have to face 7 of the top 8 runners, right? In order to win the 3K, you may only have to face 3 of the top 8 runners. And it's definitely an advantage for Oregon and Arkansas.
Yeah, I think part of that argument goes away on the men's side, particularly if Oregon wins by 30 points, and if you have someone like Cooper Tier leading the way, because even if everybody's there, Cooper Tier could win those races. It's not as if he was the 9th best guy and then somehow he falls backwards into an NCAA title. Now, nothing is guaranteed, and I understand why the sprint and field focused schools would have a bone to pick with how things were administered, but when you win by 30 points and you have a guy who's 15 5K runner and two guys in the 740s in the 3000, it's hard to say that those guys aren't deserving of big points in the national championship. Anyway,
but it's a lot easier. Yeah, it's a lot easier to beat a 753 guy than it is to beat Luis Grijalva. A little bit easier.
Yeah. No. Again, I'm not saying that, but 30 points is a big margin.
Yeah,
that's a big and also, again, if they were doing it just on distance, it'd be one thing. But the fact that you have, like, with the Oregon men and Arkansas women have some non-distance people too, but Oregon men with the triple jump, with the long jump, with the 60, with the heptathlon, and they might get some other people in there as well too once they get going. It just makes them a complete team in a year when you you're really rewarded for having a complete team. But I'm looking forward to the cross country rankings on Monday. That's exciting.
I do want to read an email that you got on Wednesday, February 3rd. You got an email from a guy named Shay Foster. He asked us, will you guys be at the Florida State XC meet this Friday? You responded, which I was surprised. We normally don't respond to people's emails, but I guess you were feeling the need to respond.
I respond to all scheduling inquiries. If people want to know where we're going to be, I'll respond to them. That's what I'll do.
You wrote, unfortunately, we won't be able to make the trip. We're planning to head to Vegas, though, again in 2 weeks. And then this guy, Shay, wrote, bummer. It's going to be a good one. Time to upset some people. And believe it or not, Shay did a great job in that race because he actually was in it, and he finished 7th. He beat Alec Hornecker. He beat James Segura, who's like a 1340 guy. He beat Alec Parsons. He beat Thomas Pollard. Beat Principe. He beat a bunch of guys. So big ups to the Southeast Louisiana junior, Shay Foster, coming in 7th in this race. He didn't have his team with him. His team ran in the B race. He ran in the A race by himself because he's just in that top tier category. So good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Top non-Power 5 runner in this race. Yeah. I Googled after it because I wrote back. I read the email and then I sent it and I was like, oh, I wonder if this is an athlete or a parent. And then I looked at the email and I was like, oh, okay. They're in this race, but I saw them in the B race. I said, okay, well, he's going to upset some people in the B race. That's cool. You can pull some upsets in the B race. That's possible. And then I opened it up this morning and saw, no, he individually was in the A race and ran 23:40. So props to him.
And I'm guessing he'll have an opportunity to go to nationals because if he just wins this, if the Southland, is the Southland Conference having a conference championship? Let's quickly. Southland Conference 2020. Oh, oops. 2020. Yeah, they're having a. Oh wait. Yeah, they're having their conference championship in 10 days. So he wins that, and he'll go to NCAAs. So we're a Shay Foster podcast. We want him to win the Southland Conference. Go do it. He'll be
objectivity is out the window.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to rank him in the top 40. Let's go for that.
Yeah, a Cinderella story. I love it. I love it. Here we go. Let's keep moving. We only got a few minutes left. Talk about some races this weekend. Bowerman Track Club and some other distance stars are going to be in action in Arizona on Saturday. Karissa Schweizer, Emma Coburn, Emily Enfield, Gabrielle W. Stafford, Taylor Werner, and Colleen Quigley will be in the 3K. It'll be Colleen Quigley's first race after announcing she's no longer with the Bowerman Track Club. Gordon, so that's a pretty quick turnaround. Made the announcement yesterday on Thursday, and then on Saturday she'll be racing against her old team. What do you think?
I got distracted. I will talk about that, but I want to talk about something in the cross country one last time. You know how I said Oklahoma State? Ooh, Taylor Summers, when they throw her in, they'll finish, pretty good. Well, Taylor Summers actually did run this race. She just ran in the B race and finished 23rd. So my Oklahoma State prediction looks like she is coming back from injury. And yeah, anyway, I just had to get that.
Don't count them out, Gordon. Don't count out people who run bad in the first race of the year. Don't do it. Don't do it. Join me over here on this side. Give BYU men a 40% chance. There's plenty of room over here for the non-overreaction portion of the podcast. Anyway, I'll name some other people who are running, and then you can talk about Quigley. Women's 8, Purrier, McGee, Ephraimson, Danny Jones. Men's 3K, Jager, Edward Cheserek, Joe Klecker, Grant Fisher, Sean McGordy, Woody Kincaid, Morgan McDonald, Johnny Gregorek. But I think most people will be focused on that women's 3K.
So they're running an outdoor 3K?
3K in Arizona. I'm assuming it will be outdoors, yes.
What's the reason to get excited for this 3K? What is
American record attempt is what I'm guessing. 8:25 is the American record outdoors, And indoors, Karissa Schweizer has run 8:25. That's why you'd be interested. You'd also be interested because, again, like I said before he got distracted, this will be Colleen Quigley's first race after switching groups. I'm not a big group team makes a huge difference type of person. She's really good. She's one of the top 3 steeplers in the United States. That team, you can put pretty much in ink right now of who's going to be on the team. So I don't think it's going to change it dramatically, but that adds a little bit of a twist to the race. Not that they didn't really work together before. Remember indoors in 2019 when it was just Houlihan, Schweizer, and Quigley going at it, battling each other time and time again. They are so good that they have to learn to be competitive with each other. So her not being on the team, I don't think is going to change that dynamic one bit.
Do we know why Quigley left?
Yeah, you didn't. There was a whole thing about no.
Well, she probably didn't say why.
We know
right?
we know as much as we always know, which is not much.
All right, so
they seemed on good terms.
They
seemed on good terms.
What's a reason? Let's come up with reasons. Reasons. Here's a podcast segment. Reasons why 2 guys who have no information think Colleen Quigley left the Bowerman Track Club. Yeah. Reason number 1, she doesn't want to live in Portland anymore. You think that's what? I'm going to come up with reasons, and you have to give me on a scale. I'm going to come up with reasons, and you have to give me on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely that could be true. 10 being it's 100% true. 0 being that's definitely not a reason.
Okay, here, I'll start though. Let me start. All the Blazers being hurt. 1 to 10. What do you think?
That's why she left?
They play in Portland. Yeah. Maybe she's frustrated because Yusuf Nurkic can't get on the court. Zach Collins he's got a lot of promise, but the guy can't stay healthy. And then Dame was just a final straw. McCollum's missed a ton of time.
I love your way to integrate NBA here, but it makes no sense. My podcast segment
1. That'll be a 1.
I'm going to come up with reasons, and you'd say on 1 to 10. She doesn't want to live in Portland anymore due to maybe a relationship somewhere else or family or something. She just wants to leave Portland.
10 is greater likelihood and 1 is no likelihood?
Yeah.
Or it had less influence? I'll give that one a 3.
Okay. So you probably think she's staying in Portland then. Okay. Number 2.
Well, no, that doesn't. No. As to a reason as why she left.
Okay. So
that could mean that she would leave.
The city had nothing to do with it. City had nothing
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll give it a 3.
Not her coach success with coach.
I mean,
can't
2?
be a reason because she's
1.5
the coach. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Wishing to have a new sponsor. New sponsorship
6.
Opportunity. 6. Okay. So
8.
8. Do you think she'll leave
I just
Nike?
Changed. I think a lot of people's contract was up at the end of the year and they tested the waters. So, I mean, she might stay with Nike. She might not, but I want to know. I don't know. I've heard a lot of things about how contracts are structured, but you never get any confirmation. So I'll split the difference. I'll say 7 there. I did a 6 and an 8. I'll say 7.
Okay. How about this one?
Mm-hmm.
Drama. They can take it anyway. Just drama. Just
drama in general. 3. I don't think that's. Okay. I think professionals are motivated by their ability to race, right? So being healthy and getting opportunities to race and being compensated a fair amount, what they determine a fair amount for their services. And then quality of life is on there as well too. But
all right. I have a few more or one more. Maybe
okay.
2.
All right.
Courtney Frerichs.
You're squeezing it.
Courtney Frerichs.
No, one. I
No,
don't.
one.
Are you saying because she's a competitor in the steeple?
Yeah, and if you ever want to beat her, maybe you should stop training with her.
See, I feel like if you want to beat her, see, Karissa Schweizer's evidence of this. If you want to beat Shelby Houlihan, train with Shelby Houlihan. It worked. It
Yeah,
worked. I
that's true.
feel like unless she's going to go train with Emma Coburn or an international steepler, I think it's helpful to have somebody there.
All right, here's one. Wanting to do something different. So that could be a different event, or it could be like, hey, I I enjoyed my time running, and I've had great successes, but I have other personal aspirations that are separate from running, and I want to be able to focus more on that type of stuff. And you can't do that if you're part of the Bowerman Track Club, because being part of the Bowerman Track Club means you live, breathe, and sleep, you know, focusing on running. And maybe she wants to make running a secondary thing and focus on other potential, you know, job
Yeah,
opportunity type
or
thing.
to phrase a different way, she wants to have more flexibility because when
Yeah.
you're in a group, and there are a lot of people who do it themselves. They become pro and they're basically training solo or with a couple of people, but they can kind of drop in and drop out. That's not the vibe I get from the Bowerman Track Club. The vibe I get is you're all the way in on it.
Yeah.
So I could see that someone being like, "Hey, I want a little bit more flexibility to do
Flexibility.
different things. My plan is I'm still a runner first, but I also want to be able to do these other things." I'll give that one a 6.5 on that
6.5.
one. Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm trying to get to,
You're trying
what
to
can
get
I
me to a
say that'll
10?
get you to, I'm trying to get a 10 out of you.
Well, I don't know. So it's never going to be a 10 until I ask her the question. When I ask her the question and she says, "Hey, it's because the weather in Portland," then I can say 10 for that one. But I think combination wanting to do something new, wanting more flexibility, and also I'm sure there's a financial component because there's a financial component to everything. Because if she went to the head of Nike and said, "Hey, I want to leave the Bowerman Track Club," and they said, "Hey, no, how about we give you $1 million a year?" I think that would change her mind because that would change everybody's mind. So there's always a financial component to these things. It wouldn't even need to be $1 million probably, but yeah, you're doing a good job
So
speculating.
based on this change, will Colleen Quigley be worse in 2021, better in 2021, or the same in 2021? And the definition of better, same, or worse is season's best mark and world finish.
I think she will be slightly better.
Whoa.
Slightly better.
Throwing some shade on Jerry Schumacher right here on the
No, I'm
podcast.
not.
Whoa.
No,
Whew.
not throwing
Yeah,
shade.
take
I
it
just
easy,
think
man.
sometimes
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm a big change. I'm a big change proponent. We talked about this with Alexa Ephraimson before. I'm a big proponent of you get a little bit of a bump, especially if you've been at the same level for a while. You got a little bit of a bump from switching things up. I don't think she's going to go to, "Hey, I'm going to win the gold medal and break the world record in the steeple." I don't think that's going to be it, but I think she'll be better. She'll get a little bit of a bump from where she was. I mean, she'd had injuries before, a lot of injuries in the past too. So if she can just keep herself healthy, that's part of it too. I don't know. Do you think she's going to, what do you think? Same, probably?
I think the same,
Same is a safe
which
bet.
is
Yeah,
still
same is a
good.
safe bet.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
I still think that Colin Quigley, I bet you, thinks about this every day. At least maybe I think about it every day. I shouldn't be thinking. I don't think about this every day, but we all remember the 1-2 finish at the 2017 World Championships with Coburn and Frericks, right? It was a great U.S. moment. These U.S. steeplers just took down like the East Africans. You haven't seen something like this. It was like, it felt like a breakthrough for U.S. distance, female U.S. distance running. because that was an event that was just dominated by East Africa, and they just came in and went 1-2.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just want to know what would have happened if the bullshit DQ never happened to Colleen Quigley and she could have been in that final. And because if you don't remember, she got DQ'd because her pinky toe was on the white line of during the cones, and it was just like it gave her no competitive advantage, but it was the DQ era where everyone wanted to be DQ'd for something. Mo Farah made the same mistake and didn't get DQ'd, but Colin Quigley does it and gets DQ'd. Happens to be in London. I'm not saying anything, but it definitely was a bullshit call. And she was running with Frericks all season long. So if Frericks got second in that race, you have to believe Quigley would have been just with her. And maybe Colleen Quigley wins that race. Maybe she gets third and it's a sweep. It just I want to know what that timeline is. I want if I had a time machine, I would go to 2017. I would talk to Colleen. I'm like, hey, my name's Gordon. I'm from the future. I know it's weird.
Don't step on the line.
Relax. It's gonna be okay. Number one, watch out for 2020. It's gonna be crazy. But number two, this race, watch your feet on the line. Trust me, you'll thank me later. And then she goes on and maybe finishes top 3, maybe even wins. That's the one thing.
And what does that
change
then? What does that change then? So then she has a medal. She's more marketable, but we could be at the same spot we are now, couldn't we?
I think it changes confidence. I think it changes confidence. I think it could mentally just change your mindset of everything, and maybe you don't even get injured, right? I feel like a lot of times injuries can happen for crazy reasons where you know, not that you're at fault of your injury, but maybe it could have changed everything. And if she's not injured, because she was injured, 2019?
Yeah, she didn't run she made the team and then didn't compete in 2019.
Like, there's just so many different things that could have happened. I think it could have catapulted her to a new. I mean, Courtney Frericks went on to break the American record. Maybe she's breaking the American record. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far in that one race, but definitely could have medaled, and then again, you never know from there. But I think, Frericks has proven it time and time again just how good she is. If this was any other event, I would say, oh man, this is going to have massive repercussions on who makes the team. But this is the chalkiest of the chalk events at the Olympic trials. In fact, I said a bold prediction might be to say that one of those three isn't going to make the Olympic team, but I didn't even go that far because it just seems so unreasonable that someone out of that top 3 would get it. I think we have 5 more minutes here. Do you want to talk about we have American Track League meet this weekend. Get to see Bromell in another 60, Fred Curley in another 400, Nick Willis in the mile versus Tacky from Texas Tech. So you got to watch that for your college rankings, Gordon. You got to watch the American Track League to see if the 800 is drastically changed, or maybe he's going to move into the mile rankings. Tacky is going to move in the mile rankings. Omar McLeod in the 60 hurdles, Shakima Wibley, Chloe Abbott in the 400. Nikki Hiltz makes her debut in the 800. Big name there too is Sophia Goriarian, who has run 202 outdoors and 203 indoors. She's a high schooler who is a high school sophomore, graduates in 2023.
2023. It's really far away.
Yeah. That makes her a sophomore.
I don't really have any thoughts.
Faster or slower for Bromell this week? He was 100th off his PR last time. Does he get his PR?
Faster. I think he breaks his PR.
Oh, wow.
Why not?
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Breaks his PR. We should also make an announcement on the pod. Should we make the announcement?
I don't know what the announcement is, so I'm a little nervous. I'm going to go through your text messages to me. I want to make an announcement. This is kind of funny. No, I'm not
Okay,
I'm not gonna say the person's name. I'm not gonna say the person's name, but it was funny that you
Okay.
texted me. You texted a fairly prominent athlete yesterday, asking them a question, and then they wrote back with, "Who is this?" And I thought it was funny because I feel like you thought, and I would have assumed too, you had forged a connection with this athlete, and instead you got, "Who is this?"
And I had previous texts. With the athlete. Maybe
With your name.
he got a new phone. I
Okay.
mean, he definitely didn't get a new phone. He just didn't put me in his phone, so he remembered the number when we were communicating. But then 2 years later, you forget that
Yeah.
number. It doesn't save the
Sure.
data, so you can't scroll back. I mean, I don't blame him. I don't save a lot of numbers. It's not like after I told him who I was, he followed up with, "What's your last name?" Like I need more information. Like I
No,
just
I
had to
just thought
say
it
my
was
name
funny.
and
No. Okay. Did you guys work things out?
yeah. Oh, we did, but we also didn't.
Okay.
It might not happen, but if it does, it'll happen. Basically,
Okay.
for those people, we're having a conversation about something that no one knows what we're talking about. I was just texting an athlete to see if we could do a workout Wednesday with them. So
Yeah.
he might not be in
Okay.
town when I want to film, so it's all right.
Okay.
Uh,
What's your announcement?
Later this month, live on FloTrack, we're live streaming the high school national championships, the Adidas Indoor Nationals, live on Flow at Virginia Beach. I'm sure you guys know that New Balance canceled their meet. The NFHS or NASAF meet canceled because NSAF and New Balance split. So there were going to be two national championships. One was going to be hosted in Boston. Another one was going to be hosted, I think, still in the Armory or in New York somewhere. Both of them canceled. So all these high school kids are like, we have no national championship, similar how NXN and Foot Locker canceled. But Virginia Beach facility stepped up, and Adidas is sponsoring the Adidas Indoor Nationals live on Flow. So we're going to see the best kids from around the country get a national title. And it happens end of February 26th, 27th, 28th. It's exciting. These kids need opportunities to run, right? We're seeing track meets happen all over the country. We're seeing multiple track meets happen. We can have a national championship. If we can have an NCAA championship, we can have a high school championship. And so it's exciting that we get to live stream it for the people. That's my announcement.
And then on Tuesday coming up, we have another World Indoor Tour meet on the site for viewers in US, Australia, and Canada that has a lot of big names. We'll preview that one on Monday when we recap all the results from the weekend as well.
That's right.
All right. We'll leave it there. Going out with a cough there. Thanks to Alon for producing. Remember,
it's not COVID.
You can find the show. Yeah, remember, you can find the show on YouTube. Leave us comments, please. Again, preface it with Gordon won't dare to say this on the air, and then we'll read it on the air. Oh, the music went on and off. Come on, Alon. You got to get that music going here. It's the weekend. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.
Go Sixers.